If you've ever scooped up a handful of rich dark soil from your raised bed and spotted a few wiggly earthworms, you know that feeling. Yes, my soil is alive. Worms are one of the biggest signs that your garden ecosystem is healthy and working with you, not against you. But here's the hard truth. A lot of common gardening habits, even ones that seem helpful, can quietly drive earthworms away or kill them off completely. Here at Rootshaven Grounds, we're all about growing food in a way that builds life in the soil, not strips it away. So let's talk about the mistakes that are harming the underground workforce in your raised beds, and exactly how to fix them. Over-tilling the soil. Raised beds don't need constant digging, but many gardeners still turn the soil every season like they would in a traditional plot. The problem is that excessive tilling destroys worm tunnels, exposes them to predators, and physically injures them. Earthworms create natural channels that improve drainage and airflow. When you keep breaking up the soil structure, they lose their habitat and often leave, if they survive at all. Instead of turning the whole bed, loosen only the top few inches when planting. Add compost on top and let worms pull nutrients down themselves. That's how nature designed it. Using synthetic fertilizers too often. Those quick green-up fertilizers might boost leaf growth, but they can make the soil harsh for worms. High salt content in synthetic fertilizers disrupts the moist, balanced environment worms need to breathe through their skin. Over time, this can reduce worm populations dramatically. If you want thriving worms, feed the soil, not just the plant. Compost, aged manure, worm castings, and slow-release organic fertilizers create a gentler environment that supports long-term soil life. Worms, they breathe through their skin, and they really need moisture to survive. Raised beds tend to dry out faster than in-ground gardens, especially when it's hot or windy out. When the soil gets bone dry, worms will either burrow down deep to escape, or, unfortunately, they might die from dehydration. So, consistent watering is definitely key, but honestly, soil structure matters just as much. Try adding organic matter like compost and shredded leaves to help your soil hold on to moisture. And don't forget, mulching the surface with straw, leaves, or wood chips can really cut down on evaporation. At the end of the day, a moist bed is a worm-friendly bed. On the flip side, having soil that's constantly soggy can be just as deadly. Worms need oxygen, and when your beds are waterlogged, all that extra water pushes the air out of the soil, basically suffocating them. If you notice your raised bed holds water after it rains, the mix might just be too heavy. To fix that, blend in some compost, coarse sand, or coconut coir to boost drainage. Your raised beds should feel moist, kind of like a wrung-out sponge, not swampy. Fresh manure might seem like a nutrient goldmine, but honestly, it generates heat and releases ammonia as it breaks down. That heat can literally cook worms, and the ammonia can burn their sensitive skin. The best thing you can do is always use well-aged or composted manure. If it still smells strong, it's just not ready yet. Properly composted manure is dark, crumbly, and has an earthy smell. And trust me, worms absolutely love it. So, even products labeled for garden use can actually harm worms, believe it or not. Many insecticides, fungicides, and herbicides end up seeping into the soil where worms live and feed. Instead of reaching for chemicals, it's way better to focus on prevention and keeping a natural balance. Healthy soil with plenty of organic matter encourages beneficial insects and microbes, and those guys help keep pests in check. Hand-picking pests, using neem oil sparingly, and encouraging birds. These simple steps can solve a lot of issues without poisoning your soil. A super tidy raised bed might look nice, but honestly, worms thrive on decaying organic matter. When every single fallen leaf and plant trimming gets tossed away, worms lose their main food source. So, chop and drop spent plants, add shredded leaves, and top your beds with compost on a regular basis. That slow breakdown feeds worms, and in return they produce castings that enrich your soil way better than most store-bought products. Constant replanting, digging, and rearranging might seem exciting for us gardeners, but it's pretty stressful for worms. Every major disturbance forces them to rebuild tunnels and relocate, which is a lot of work for them. Try planning your planting layout before the season begins, if you can. Use succession planting in the same holes where possible, and only disturb the areas you're actively working in. The more stable you can keep the soil environment, the more worms will settle in for the long haul. So, not adding enough organic matter can really become a problem, you know. Raised bed mixes that are mostly peat, coco coir, or just topsoil without ongoing organic additions will eventually become pretty lifeless. Worms, well, they need decomposing material to eat, not just minerals. It's really important to top dress your beds with compost at least once or twice a year. And don't forget, you can also mix in things like leaf mold, aged wood chips, or even kitchen scrap compost. When worms have a steady buffet, they multiply, and your soil fertility just increases naturally. Extreme temperature swings are another big challenge. Raised beds heat up and cool down faster than ground soil, which can be a real issue. In very hot climates, soil temperatures can rise high enough near the surface to actually kill worms or force them deep, where they just can't benefit your plants as much. Mulch, honestly, is your best defense. A thick organic layer acts like insulation, keeping soil cooler in summer and warmer in the cooler months. And, shade cloth during extreme heat can also help protect soil life. If you're watering with softened water or water that's high in dissolved salts, it can slowly make the soil inhospitable for worms. Salt actually draws moisture out of their bodies and over time, damages the soil structure too. If you can, try to use rainwater or unsoftened tap water instead. Oh, and adding organic matter really helps buffer salt buildup and keeps your soil biology more resilient. Worms really prefer soil that's close to neutral. If the soil gets extremely acidic or highly alkaline, it can reduce their activity and even survival rates. It's a good idea to test your soil every year or two. If it turns out too acidic, you can add garden lime gradually to help. On the flip side, if it's too alkaline, compost and organic matter usually bring things back into balance over time. A healthy pH supports not just worms, but nutrient availability for your plants too. Earthworms aren't just nice to have, they're soil engineers. They improve drainage, mix nutrients, boost microbial life, and leave behind castings that act like slow-release fertilizer. When worms disappear, the soil compacts faster, drains poorly, and loses fertility. But here's the good news. Worms come back when conditions improve. Build soil rich in organic matter, keep moisture balanced, avoid harsh chemicals, and minimize disturbance. Do that, and you really won't need to add worms. They'll find your garden on their own. That's the kind of gardening we believe in here at Rootshaven Grounds, working with nature so the soil gets better every single season. If this helped you understand what's happening beneath your raised beds, make sure you stick around. Subscribe to Rootshaven Grounds. Share this with a fellow gardener, and let's keep growing healthier soil together.